we always like to ask our guests as we wind down, is there sort of a quote or a saying that, resonates with you or how you live or that has helped you greatly in your success that you'd be willing to share with us?
Ready, fire, aim has been the reason why we are so successful. And so what that means is the ready part is still incredibly important. You need to ready yourself, but then wait to aim later.
Hey everyone, I have Charles Crompton on our show today. Really excited to have this conversation because Airbnb is such a hot topic in today's real estate investment space. So many people have so many questions about it. And I think Charles is the right guy to have answer a lot of these questions today, especially for people who are looking to just start out in this great niche. So a little bit about Charles, pretty impressive track record here. Been a sort of long-term investor, had some investment properties, but recently accelerated himself into the Airbnb space. From what I know of Charles, it sounded like they just basically pulled that trigger one day, decided that this was the right thing, that they were going to pursue this. And, they've done that and been, I think, very successful at it over a short period of time. So, I'll let Charles tell us more about his story, but essentially, they are Airbnb specialists. They do Airbnb arbitrage, and they've kind of found a unique spin on Airbnb by offering Airbnb wholesaling, along with pairing that with coaching for aspiring investors who are looking to get their first deal. So I think, packaged together, he offers some really unique things and I'm really looking forward to the conversation and him being able to share some of this with you guys. So thanks, Charles, for being on the show today. I think I got most of it in the introduction, but I'll let you give us a brief introduction about yourself. Tell us a little bit about, your real estate investing background and basically what you're up to today.
Sure. Yeah. Feel free to cut me off if I'm talking too much. Hopefully I can add some value here. So, my wife and I, longtime investors, real estate and stock investing. That's our corporate background as well. So definitely experienced in that space. But we worked corporate jobs for 11 years out of school. We actually worked for the same investment company, Edward Jones, shout out, a great company. And really, it was last year where we found ourselves in a place where we were looking for something else. We'd been focused on creating wealth to have that, freedom and, ability to spend more time with friends and family and do the things we want to do. And we had achieved that in our, climbing the corporate ladder. And now with a 2-year-old daughter and another one on the way, we are kind of in this place where we wanted to see if we can leave that corporate life and, build something for ourselves. And so we went exploring to figure out what that might look like. And we came across essentially the Airbnb arbitrage concept on a podcast. It was the Andrew Hines podcast. I listened to someone who had achieved success in Ontario with this business model. And right after I listened to that podcast, I said to myself, right in that moment, this is what we're going to do. I didn't realize how fast it was going to happen and the success that we would have so quickly. That was a pleasant surprise, but I knew when I listened to that podcast that this was it. And so we spent the next couple months or so. I woke up at like 4:00 every day before my day job to kind of build a company, do the research, find the people who would do this with us. And then ultimately we quit our corporate jobs this past December, 9 months ago or so. We launched our first property after we quit. We'll talk more about that. So we quit before we even launched our first property, and then launched our first in December. We now have over 40 as a company. So it's been wild growth, a ton of fun, crazy hard and challenging, but it's been great.
Wow, that is unbelievable, and I'm sure we're gonna dive deep into that accelerated growth. But just, for our listeners' sake, maybe tell us what arbitrage actually is.
Sure. Yeah. So essentially with Airbnb arbitrage, we are leasing properties as tenants from real estate investors. And so it's kind of a unique business model because we're offering an alternative solution to real estate investors who have challenges like the rest of us with long-term tenants and property management. And so essentially what we do is we reach out to real estate investors who have the rental properties, and we share our business model where we provide a service to them. They become our clients. But more than anything else, that is our focus, is to make sure that we are delivering on our value proposition, which is peace of mind and passive investing. And so becoming their tenant, we take over a vacant property and then we sublet on Airbnb. And so real estate investors become our clients. We serve them by being their ideal tenant and property manager, keeping the property in pristine condition. And the way our business runs, we have all these properties where we pay the rent and utilities to investors, and then we make money by running it as an Airbnb. So our profit margin is the difference, of course, on the rent and the revenue we earn on Airbnb.
Right.
Yeah, I know. And it's such an interesting model because the leverage is so high, right? I mean, you can essentially, there's a low barrier to entry as well for people looking to get in, where you can essentially set up a business without having to have the down payment to purchase the property. Meanwhile, you're also solving a great need for investors. So maybe talk to us a little bit about that. Like, why would an investor want to rent to you, and how do you go about finding those investors?
Yeah, great question. So I think the main reason investors lease their properties to us now, and most of them, frankly, once we've created a client who is an investor growing their portfolio, they start to lease all their properties to us. And that's when they really start to realize the benefit, which is they get to focus on what they do best. Real estate investors want to grow their portfolio. They want to focus on acquiring and growing. The biggest challenge is on the tenant management and property management. No matter how hard you try, no matter the processes you have in place or the great property managers you have, the issues don't go away. And from minor to major issues with tenants, it's time consuming, it's headaches, and it's stress. Leasing your property to us, we act as your tenant. We pay the rent and utilities, which is all really you're hoping for from your tenant. And we keep the place in pristine condition, but with none of the headaches, because we're not actually a tenant. We're your business partner, and we're here to serve you. You are our client. And so our objective is to make sure it's entirely hands off. You know, your property is going to be kept in pristine condition because our business depends on that. We do a deep inspection and cleaning after every guest. The property is just always being maintained. If anything is noticed, we identify it and bring it to the owner. And so they're really just getting the ideal tenant and property manager in one, and it's the same tenant and property manager for all their properties. And so the opportunity and potential for an investor to focus on growth and scale without any of the headaches, it's such a great solution.
100%. Yeah. I mean, those are the two major headaches for any landlord or investor, is that dealing with tenants, most people hate, and dealing with maintenance, also most people hate.
Exactly.
And the landlord and tenant board.
Exactly.
And so with us, that all kind of goes away. And I'll tell you, that's why this business model resonated with me so much when I heard the podcast. It wasn't just the financials. The podcast let me know that the numbers worked, right? Someone had achieved success with this business model in Ontario. So I knew the numbers worked. And so, yeah, we're going to do some due diligence to make sure and figure out what those returns would be. But my focus kind of shifted to the other side. I was so excited about the business model because I knew that this was a real solution, a real value to investors, because we've experienced the same thing. We've had real estate investment properties for a long time, and we struggle like everyone else with this piece. And I just thought if we could create a company that focused on serving investors, they become our client. I just thought we could do something special here and have a whole lot of fun doing it and meet lots of great people along the way. And that's what it's been like.
For sure. So what, when you're, let's say giving this idea to a potential investor that you want to rent the property from, how has that conversation been? Because oftentimes people that are not new to Airbnb, they may think, oh, hey, I don't want to rent it out to an Airbnb because they're gonna have a lot of parties. They're gonna, not take care of my property. So perhaps that's, some of the misconceptions some landlords may have.
Right. And so I would say that, the opportunity here with Arbitrage is that there are operators all over the place, just like us. And so if you have a rental property, this model serves your purpose in so many ways. You no longer have to go out there and find tenants and deal with the property management of it all. You get to work with us, and we take care of that property.
So generally speaking, I guess I think what Jose was trying to get at is, have there been objections with landlords, or has it been sort of a smoother conversation where they're able to see the value to what you bring? Just because, anything unknown comes with fear. And the fact of the matter is that people just don't understand Airbnb, because it is, although it's been around for a long time, the popularity of it as an investment model has increased in the last little while. So has the reception from the investor community generally been understanding, and has it been a fairly straightforward transaction in order to get the lease signed?
Yeah. Fair questions. I would say there's been quite a ramp up period. So in the beginning, when I reached out to landlords and investors with vacant properties with this concept, a lot of skepticism. Right. I mean, they had never heard of it before. And who is this Charles guy? And we don't have a brand or reputation at that point. We're trying to find our first few properties. So that was challenging. And I think it was important to really understand the questions and concerns that people would have, and make sure that we had the actual value to deliver on those concerns. And so I would say in the beginning, there was a lot of concern about potential damage or lots of turnover or issues at the property. But I think once people understand the model, it just makes so much sense. And these issues they never really come to fruition. We take care of everything at the property. It's all on us. So in the beginning, it was tough. But now that people are hearing more about it, and now that we have lots of references of investors who we are leasing from who love the model and their experience has been great, it's just made it so much easier for us. We frankly haven't had to pitch the model to an investor in months and months. We just have so many people reaching out to us to lease or to go through with this arbitrage approach.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that in Ontario, especially with the way that landlord-tenant relations have been, especially post-COVID, there are a lot of frustrated landlords for various reasons. So I think for that reason, you're definitely filling a piece in the market that people are looking for.
I think so. And I think it ultimately, even in the beginning, it came down to trust in us. And in the beginning, without credibility, without lots of references, that took longer. I would say that it was really it took multiple conversations with the same people to get them to finally sign a lease with us, because ultimately they were trusting that we were actually creating a business that served them and that the solution worked. And so multiple conversations with the chance to just learn more about myself and my wife and our partners, to understand more of the details of how it works. They just got more and more confident over time that this is a real thing with real value and that they can trust us. That's really what happened. And so it's the same thing today. It's just that trust is created much more quickly because they see that we're doing this for so many others. So they know this is a real thing and that there's value in it.
Right. Tell us about, your exponential growth in such a short period of time and how you were able to achieve that, and perhaps, how you found your partners.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. It's a good one. We were in a unique position. My wife and I had definitely created some wealth for ourselves, and we were looking for something new. And so our ability to plan to both quit and go full time into building a startup company was significant, with capital to use as well. So that combination was definitely part of our ability to scale so quickly. Our partners, I want to definitely talk about that for a minute. So after we heard the podcast in October, we kind of, as I mentioned, went to work and trying to build the foundation of this company. What would it look like? What's our growth path? Who do we need to be working with? How do we find properties? All these things. The biggest piece of that puzzle was finding people to build this company with. We knew pretty early on that this couldn't just be Tiffany and I. This is too big of a business with too many moving pieces that required so much expertise. So we saw that Tiffany and I would be focusing on the business development, the growth of the business, relationships with real estate investors, signing deals and essentially working with our clients, our investors. But we needed partners who are going to be the Airbnb operations for a fast and growing company and a large scale. And so we went out hunting for these partners that already brought we're looking for so many things. We were looking for partners who had Airbnb expertise already, that they were gurus in this space, that they had the same mindset and vision as us, and so that they were willing to join forces and build this thing together. And we were just so lucky. I don't even know how it happened. I swear we found the best two partners in the world, and it was maybe like my second conversation. Like I was planning to have 100 conversations before I found people, maybe more. And it was the second conversation I had, which was with Tracy, and that's Airbnb Simplified and her partner. And they just brought everything to the table. She was already planning to quit her corporate job. She had climbed the ladder as well very quickly. She's young. Her and her partner are 27, I think, but they were climbing the corporate ladder fast, CPA, CFA. But they were looking to build a Airbnb management business and go about it the more traditional route, creating those clients. And then when we found each other, I think it was just the perfect fit on both sides. Her plan was to build her own company, but then we found each other, and it just made so much sense to do this together. Our skill sets were entirely opposite. We brought across the four of us, we had the right diversified skill sets to grow quickly. And frankly, that was not only the reason for our quick growth, but it was what gave us the confidence to quit, knowing we had the right partners, we had the right business model, and that we were ready to go.
Yeah, I know. And it's interesting you're talking about partnership because, 50% or 30% or whatever percent of a pie is better than no pie, right? And I think sometimes people get caught up in this idea that, I don't want to give away anything. Like I want to have the entire business for myself. I'm like, it's the same concept with joint venture partners, right? With people who purchase property. It's like, oh, well, why should I give away, this much equity, or why should I? But I think that, you're a prime example that giving away something allows you to grow rather than taking 100% of something that's not going anywhere. So, that's really exciting. And I think that's wonderful. What was the reason that you decided to have a partnership model rather than just growing a business with an employee base? Because that's what a lot of people would think right away. Like as soon as you have an idea, you think to yourself, like, how can I hire people to execute? You sort of went a different route. So what was your thinking behind that?
I think it was primarily two things. One, we wanted to scale fast. We had a vision of building this company quickly, and a lot of reasons behind that. And in order to do that, we needed partners who brought this skill set and would allow us to be hands off. These aren't just two people who could do the work really well. They were going to build the operations from the ground floor up and figure out how to run this company from day to day efficiently and to optimize our return, to optimize the guest experience. We needed people to take that on entirely and take it off of our plate. If we were going to grow quickly, we needed to trust in partners to just take that entirely and run with it. And they've been able to do that and more. So we wanted to grow quickly. But Tiffany and I are both very family focused. We already have a beautiful 2-year-old daughter, and we have a little boy on the way. He's due in 4 weeks. And so, we're committed to growing this company and serving our clients, but ultimately we aren't willing to make that trade-off of spending way less time with our young family. And so we knew that if we were going to do this the right way, with our priorities in play, which is our family, that we needed partners to help us grow.
Oh, perfect. Tell us, throughout your journey, what has been some of the big mistakes that you face and what you've learned from them.
Yeah, geez, that could take a while.
Yeah.
Well, I would say it was in our business plan to invest in a whole lot of mistakes, if that makes sense. It was the plan from day one, which is counterintuitive to a lot of people that are starting any business, but especially arbitrage. They're trying to find the exact right properties, that they're running the return, trying to make sure it's the exact right return on their investment. And it was our mindset that we needed to get out there and build a company. And so we were willing to invest our initial investment into the company, significant amounts, into simply just making mistakes, getting the properties where we can get them. If they weren't perfect, we were going to take them on. And we were just going to learn that much more by taking on more properties. And so it was intentional to make a lot of mistakes. And here some of them are. Properties that aren't in pristine condition. It is what is going to creates so much more time and hassle to run an arbitrage business, because essentially you are the property manager and you have guests with high expectations. And so if your properties aren't newly renovated without any maintenance issues, you're just going to run into just a compounding list of issues, which makes the business so much more difficult and less profitable, of course. And so we now have some pretty strict criteria on which properties we take on, and the properties need to be recently renovated for the most part. They need to be in great condition. And along with that is even the age of the property. That the older the property, even if it looks nice as the shell, it often comes with plumbing issues or pests that you can't necessarily see on the surface, again, leading to more issues when you're running this kind of business. So taking on the really nice properties, nice assets, if you will, is really important with this. That's one major mistake, I would call it. The building of local teams. So that we underestimated the amount of needs on the physical property itself, right? We thought, hey, once we landed this property, most of it's remote, keyless entry for the guests and whatnot, and our cleaners. We pictured it as mostly a remote business, and that we would deal with the property management side mostly as it came up. And we just realized that that was a mistake. We needed to have built way deeper local teams for all of our cities of operations, like multiple handymen, multiple cleaners, multiple boots on the ground or property coordinators who can go to the property whenever we need them. We just needed a way longer list of trusted people before we grew so quickly. So we grew in all these cities at once, and the property management needs, from garbage removal, snow and lawn care, cleaning, handymen, all these things. So many issues come up when you have that many properties. And if you're trying to find someone to deal with the issue as it comes up, it's a nightmare. So building local teams would be the second important thing and mistake from our end.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's great that, you make mistakes and then you learn from them. And, as long as you can afford to do that and you're able to pick yourself up and move forward, I think that that's the best way to continue, basically accelerate your growth. But in terms of people who are looking to start out, look, there's lots of listeners and people out there who are just, really looking to get into the Airbnb space in some way, whether it's a full-fledged business like yours, or maybe just to have a couple of properties that they can, have as short-term rentals. What is sort of the strategy that you think is the best, or, from your experience? I mean, there's so many different takes on it. There's people who are renting, for people who are traveling. There's people who are renting luxe properties for, that are like near the beach and prime destinations. What is sort of your strategy or your advice to people when they're first starting out in terms of scoping the right style and type of property to use as either arbitrage or purchasing for short-term rentals?
Yeah, good question. I would say start with a small suburban or city property in a city that has the right regulations. Essentially, what you're doing here is you're learning. This is very much an active business. It's not passive. It's not a passive investment. You're really building a company. Even with one or two properties, you really are. There's such a big learning curve that you can try to learn as much in advance as you can, but you just won't know and understand, and you won't actually learn until you're doing. That really is it. And so you do just need to start. And I would say to start with a smaller property, which is just a smaller investment that's easier to manage for so many reasons. That the smaller, the better. And then just go get that first property. Because at the end of the day, if it's not a luxe property, if it's just a standard suburban property, might cost you 15 to 20 total upfront to invest. But even if that all goes to just learning how to manage a short-term rental really, really well, 20 grand to learn that kind of skill in the next few months, that alone is enough. Even if you don't even make $1 of profit, which won't be the case, you will. But you need to go in with the right mindset to learn on your first property. And I think you need to start small. It gets so much more complicated when you talk about vacation properties, luxe properties, so many other factors that need to be learned. So start small and go in with the mindset to learn this high income skill, and let that property and your experience determine where you go from there.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. In terms of competition, and you've been doing this for a while. Are you finding that most of your competition is just mom and pop people that are renting one or two houses, or are they now starting to? Are you starting to see, like, bigger companies, just like yourselves, trying to be your competition?
Yeah, I would say that's even changed in the last 9 months. When we started, we were one of the only bigger companies doing this. Maybe there's one other company that got started a couple of years before us. Otherwise, it was just us and then a lot of mom and pops. But I think a number of things have led to Airbnb and short-term rentals becoming more popular with everyone. So it used to be a mom and pop thing, and now real estate investors and others looking to generate more cash flow are looking to get into the market. And so there's certainly a lot more competition these days.
Yeah. And what would you say is the most important factor to be able to survive? I mean, in any industry, including being an investor, there's always going to be competition, right? But ultimately, it's about how you navigate that competition. So what would you say is sort of your secret weapon, or what is it that you guys are able to do to always maintain a level of excellence, perhaps, and stand out and continue to, feel confident to invest in this method?
Yes, such a good question. And I know the answer. Our competitive advantage, our unfair advantage in building this company is that we had the right mindset going in about what this was. We are building a company with two sets of clients. That was clear to us from the get-go. We knew the numbers worked. We just knew, so if the numbers work, we knew if we can deliver better value and continue to learn how to improve that value over time to our two sets of clients, we were going to outperform all of our competition. And that's really what's happened. It's why we've grown to 40 properties so quickly. There's nothing special. We've created a brand and reputation for delivering the best value to our clients, and they know that. And so the leads are coming to us every day. And so you need to go in to know that this isn't an investment strategy that's passive. It is active. You have two sets of clients. And if your focus isn't on delivering value to those clients, you're not going to succeed. If it's about trying to achieve the dollar return, you're not going to be making the right decisions for the growth of your company. So figure out how you can deliver value to your real estate investors. That's your client one, where you're getting these properties. You need to make sure that you think of them as a client and you work with them as a client. And then our other is, of course, our guests. And so we spend almost all of our time as a company constantly thinking about how we can improve the guest experience in every way from A to Z, and how we can improve the experience of our real estate investors who work with us. And we just know if we continue to do that, we're going to continue to come up with clever and creative ways to be the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of markets, I mean, right now, you're primarily focused in the Southern Ontario market. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's our main hub. Yep.
Where do you kind of see things going for you guys? Are you going to continue to focus here, or is your vision to diversify into other parts of Canada, or perhaps down south in the United States? Where do you see the opportunity?
Global. I mean, that sounds crazy, but we've expanded to other parts of Canada. So we're in Alberta. We plan to expand there in Calgary and Edmonton. Our Moncton portfolio is growing really quickly in New Brunswick. And we're focusing over the next few months on our company's foundation. So we've kind of paused on accelerating our growth. We're still growing pretty quickly, but we really are focused on the day-to-day operations, hiring good people, improving our software and our systems and our communication across our different teams and divisions as our company grows. And so we really want to make sure we have a sound foundation. And then as we move into the new year, we're really going to focus on targeted expansion. And we see a couple of opportunities in the US, certainly with much better margins. And we see opportunities all over the world because it's really not that difficult to do. This really is a remote business. And if you can build trusted teams and partners in another country, once you have those teams in place, the processes are almost identical. And so we're looking everywhere. I was just having a conversation with someone in Melbourne, Australia yesterday, and we're already exploring what this might look like. And who knows?
Yeah, for sure. And is your vision to continue with an arbitrage model, or are you looking to start to perhaps purchase properties in certain locations?
Yeah. So many good questions. Holy. So arbitrage is the and as you mentioned, it's that low barriers to entry, right? That because we're solving a solution for so many real estate investors, there's a lot of product out there, to grab a hold to. So arbitrage made sense as the first phase of our business. I'm not sure the timeline, but certainly after we expand our arbitrage and diversify that business, we will shift our focus to acquiring properties. And we see an opportunity to one day be a short-term rental REIT, where all we do is acquire and purchase properties for short-term rental. So that's definitely a focus. And luxury getaway properties, I think, will also be our focus. Again, the suburban city market, a lot of opportunity there. So easy to build a company pretty quickly. But once the company is built and we have the brand and reputation, we think there's an even bigger opportunity in the true vacation market.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was curious to know whether or not how you pick a specific market or a specific niche. Like let's say some people focus on cottages and vacation type of Airbnbs. Some people focus on like workforce housing, like just catering to like maybe nurses or construction workers. Is there a specific niche that you focus on, or is it just wherever the opportunity is?
Yeah, it seems to constantly be evolving. And so we're trying to figure out what our phase strategy is. For the most part, the initial phase of scaling our growth has been focused on very traditional and basic properties in suburban locations in cities with high populations. It's obvious that the need for short-term stays is significant because even with lots of Airbnbs popping up, there's still so much demand for all these properties. And so that was the easiest way to just diversify on a very similar asset class where the people coming to stay are there visiting friends, they're between homes. It's nothing special about the property. It's just in a good location where people need to stay. But as we start to grow now, we are trying to focus in on some new strategies. And you even mentioned a couple there. But we're open to anything. We really want to just continue understanding where the market's going, where the opportunities are. And we're going to start diving further into that research and picking our spots.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about mindset here. Like, how are you so motivated? What do you do to keep yourself motivated every day? How do you, continue to battle, I am sure, ups and downs? Everybody who comes on here, it's like they have these amazing stories, as do you, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And I'm sure there's good days, bad days, really bad days, young family. Tell us your secrets.
Geez, so that's all very true. There has been great times and some hard times, especially when we got going. Within the first few months, we were all burnt out. The four co-founders here, we launched so many properties, and in the beginning, the quality of our properties was far lower. As I mentioned, we went in just to take on what we can get, and so the number of issues and headaches and we were burnt out, we were stressed, and we still didn't even know if the numbers were going to work because we were launching in the dead of winter, really with the confidence that the numbers would work. And so there was a really tough time there for a while where we had to stay focused on our purpose, that we knew that we can create a company here that delivered real value, and that if we kept focus on reaching our vision, that kind of got us through the day to day. But I think I'd say the biggest thing is just knowing that all of these challenges, the risks, the scary times, the fears that we're working through, like the amount of personal growth that we've had in the last 9 months in building this company, it's really unbelievable. To look back on what we've had to work through and figure out and problem solve and lean into our fears, lean into the risk. What has come with that on a personal side has set us up for really a more purposeful life, no matter what happens here. Even if this business doesn't work out, we are better people having done this. And so I think if you focus on the big picture stuff, the big rocks about this is a great experience, and if you just embrace it, enjoy it, and know you're becoming better having worked through it, then everything else is not so bad. Everything else is just temporary, right? It's just a rough day, but at the end of the day, if I'm going to be better for it, that keeps us moving forward.
Yeah.
That's so well said.
Well said.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. Such good advice. And, there's this thing that says that, set goals so big that you won't even recognize the person you've become once you've achieved them. And that's what it's about, right? The goal is about the evolution of who you become in order to achieve that goal, more so than just achieving that goal. Because that moment of achieving the goal is so temporary. Like you set a goal and then you get to it and you're like, okay, like I've
that's
done
not the
it,
fun
right?
part. Yeah, that's exactly right.
I know that sounds a little bit, but it's true. Anybody who set goals, they can attest to that.
Well, I'm telling you, it is what had happened here. And it's also the reason for our success, right? It's all this, it's very circular. We started in the beginning and the 4 co-founders were on a Zoom call like this. We hadn't done anything yet. We were just talking about, what's going to happen with our company. And we said some things out loud in that meeting. We said, we're going to get to 50 properties in 1 year. No one's done that before. We're going to do it. And we kind of laughed and but we also said that we can do this. It sounded crazy. It sounded impossible. And we just started to think through, okay, well, it's not. So how can we do it? Like, let's set a ridiculous goal and let's just figure out how to do it. And it's going to happen and more. We're going to surpass that goal. At the time seemed impossible, and we're going to surpass it. And so it's this combination of believing so hard in that vision and goal that it's possible, that you're able to just press through everything else just to figure out how to get there. And then you're exactly right that, the goal isn't the fun part. It's already happened and we've already set new goals. And so it's the journey, it's that purpose and clarity of what you're working towards. And then every day knowing you're working towards that finish line that you'll never reach. And that's the fun part, is like, you're always just pushing out that goal line to extend and evolve and expand on your goals. And that's the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love hearing stories about, we're a couple investor. How do you work with your wife, you guys have the same vision. Just briefly tell us, how did that impact where you are today? Like, how has that been instrumental for the both of you? I know she's not here today, but I'm 100% confident she is just as awesome as you are. And so, how has that impacted your success?
I can't even say enough about that. It takes a very special relationship and 2 special people to be able to go into business together and grow the business and grow your relationship at the same time. It's not easy, but if you're with the right person, it's been incredible. Tiffany is a miracle. I'm the luckiest guy in the world to have her at my side. And she's just that rock. I'm the crazy guy with all these ideas saying we're going to quit our jobs and build this company. And she just says, okay, let's do it. And she trusts in me and the support that she provides every day is, I just can't say enough. This is not possible without having that person who supports you in all that you do. So I certainly have that. And then the benefit of having 2 ground floor partners, it's almost like the same thing. It's 2 more people who see what you see, believe in what you believe. And that kind of confidence of having a little coalition of people who believe in what you believe, it just makes every day easier and more possible.
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, really, really great.
So yeah, you've obviously gone through so much and built a great company. You learned a ton. You recently started a coaching program as well for people that want to get started. Tell us a little bit about that, and also how if somebody may want to partner with you.
Yeah, cool. So it kind of happened naturally. We always planned at some point to create some sort of coaching course to help others get into this space because it's really an untapped market and it's growing. So it was always a plan for our company, but it wasn't supposed to be now. And it kind of just happened where we've had so many real estate investors reaching out to us, asking us to lease their property with this model. We just can't take them all on. There's way too many in too many different cities where we don't have teams. We just can't do it. And so we kind of came together, the 4 of us, and said, like, well, what do we do here? We don't want to be saying no to these great people who are interested in our service. And then we also realized we have a bunch of people in our DMs on Instagram asking us, how do you do this? They want to get into the space. And so it just seemed like this natural opportunity to make some good connections. And so we don't think anyone's doing what we're doing. There's people who provide lots of coaching on the arbitrage concept or short-term rentals. But with our program, essentially what we're doing is we are bringing a real estate investor with a property ready to move forward with this arbitrage model. And we're actually providing an aspiring arbitrager who wants to learn the space with their first property and their first client. And then with that first client, we also provide all the coaching that they would need to launch, manage, and scale their business. And so these other coaching programs are all theory on how to do it, but I don't think they really equip someone to take action, or at least it makes it very difficult to take action. We know so many people who have taken these courses and spent thousands of dollars on courses, but they don't have a property yet because it doesn't quite give you what you need to have the confidence to go. And so what we're providing with this, we're calling it arbitrage wholesaling and coaching really, is we're providing you with your property and with all the guidance you need to design, launch, stage, and manage that company. And so I think we're offering something pretty unique here. Our experience has been phenomenal. Everyone who's worked with us so far, we see their properties on going on Instagram, and they just look phenomenal, and they're having a lot of fun, and that's felt great. We're meeting great people with it, and I think with this unique model, we're helping people take action in getting into this space today.
Yeah, that's really great. So we always like to ask our guests as we wind down, is there sort of a quote or a saying that, resonates with you or how you live or that has helped you greatly in your success that you'd be willing to share with us?
Geez, about 40 of them come to mind. Yeah, you put me on the spot. Yeah. I would say with this concept, ready, fire, aim has been the reason why we are so successful. And so what that means is the ready part is still incredibly important. You need to ready yourself, but then wait to aim later. Have a plan, have a vision, have a purpose, have that big picture line of sight that this is where we're going to be and we're just going to make it happen. That's the ready part, that you feel ready. And then you fire. You got to take action. You got to get in there, because until you fire, you can't aim. And yet I think it's human nature to ready, aim, fire, but everyone gets stuck in aiming, and they're aiming and they can't aim properly, and the action never really comes. And you get paralyzed with the analysis and paralyzed with fear. All this aiming creates even more fear, and now you're even less likely to take action. So forget the aim. Ready yourself, have a goal and a vision, fire, take action, start that first property, get going, and then you'll know where to aim. The aiming will be obvious. And so that quote, I think, led to us all jumping into this business and creating the success that we've had.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Yeah. And for our listeners who are looking to get in touch, who are interested in maybe getting on your list for wholesale arbitrage, who want to maybe dabble in some coaching or just follow your journey, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So for either real estate investors who are interested in using this arbitrage model with us, or for us people who want to get into the arbitrage business themselves, our two Instagram pages. So my wife and I are set up as at Crompton _Elite REI. That's Tiffany and I. And then our co-founders and partners are at Airbnb Simplified. And that's Tracy is the face of that one, and her partner behind the scenes. And so that's where you can follow along with our journey. And if you send us a DM through either of those channels, we'll make sure that you end up on our distribution list. And if you want to connect, we'll be here to do that as well.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah. We'll put that in our show notes and make sure that people know how that they can reach out. And I'm sure you'll be getting a whole bunch of them, because I think that what you're doing is great. I've had some personal conversations with Charles when I was looking to get into some short-term rentals. He's definitely got some great boots on the ground experience now, and just such a positive mindset about all of this. And I think that the mindset is really, first and foremost, like you said, so powerful.
It's everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Charles,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for being so honest and vulnerable. It's all about the ups and downs, but I commend you for the success that you guys have had. Looking forward to following along over the next little while and seeing where you guys go with this.
That's great. Thank you so much for having me, and look forward to connecting again. Maybe we'll get on here again sometime in the future.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.